Angelica didn't think about what would happen next, but the black guys were determined and confident, and their desire and attraction were very strong. She obeyed without question, and then they took out their... Angelica slammed the door behind her so hard the hallway shook. 64 and still full of fire, she'd had enough of Lawrence's cold tone, his rolled eyes, his long-winded speeches about how things used to be. That night, after their fight spiraled into shouting, she grabbed her purse, threw on her coat, and left without looking back. New York's streets were cold, but Angelica wasn't. Her heart beat hot in her chest, her lips curled into a smirk. She had plans, dangerous ones. For the past 2 weeks, she'd been chatting online with a young man named Malik. Handsome, built like a Greek statue, and charming in a way that made her knees weak, even through a screen. He lived across the river in Jersey, and tonight, she needed a break from everything familiar. She texted him one word: coming. An hour later, Angelica stood outside a modest apartment building in Newark, heels tapping on the concrete, a fitted trench coat hugging her curves. The door opened, and there he was. Malik. Tall, dark skin glowing in the hallway light, dreadlocks pulled back, wearing a tight black tee that clung to every inch of muscle. He smiled wide. "You made it." "I said I would," she replied, stepping past him, brushing lightly against his chest. The apartment smelled like cologne and spice. Music played softly from a speaker in the corner. She slipped off her coat, revealing a low-cut top and fitted skirt. Malik's eyes swept over her without shame. "You look good," he said, leading her toward the living room. She was about to reply when another man stepped out of the kitchen. Taller, broader, shirtless. "Yo, you didn't tell me she was this fine," he said, grinning. Malik laughed. "This is my brother, Tyrone. He's chill. He won't bite unless you want him to." Angelica raised a brow but didn't flinch. "I didn't know this was a party." "Only if you want it to be," Malik replied, his voice low. She sat down on the plush couch. Tyrone walked behind her, his fingers brushing her shoulders as he passed. Malik sat close, his hand finding her knee like it belonged there. She didn't stop him. She didn't want to. A bottle of wine appeared. Glasses were poured. Laughter filled the air. An hour in, her shoes were off. Her top was slightly open. Malik leaned in, his lips grazing her neck, and she let out the smallest breath. Tyrone sat across from them, watching, waiting. There was no shame, no second-guessing, just heat. Malik stood and offered her a hand. She took it. He led her to the bedroom. Tyrone followed. She looked back once, only once, and then she smiled. Clothes came off slowly. Hands touched like they were discovering fire. Malik kissed her with hunger, lifting her onto the bed with ease. Tyrone joined them, his hands just as confident, his touch electric. Their skin against hers was warm, powerful, overwhelming. Angelica gasped. She moaned. She laughed. She lost time. 2 strong bodies, 2 sets of lips, 2 pairs of hands made her feel like she was 30 again. No, 20. The night unfolded in waves of pleasure and boldness. She let go. She became something else, something free, untamed. She never thought she'd do something like this. But now, wrapped between 2 young gods, her heart racing, her body trembling, she didn't regret a second of it. Not one. The bedroom was dim, lit only by the glow of a lava lamp in the corner, casting red and gold across the walls. Angelica lay back on the soft sheets, her silver hair fanned over the pillows like silk. Malik hovered over her, lips brushing the curve of her collarbone, while Tyrone knelt by her side, his hands trailing along her thighs with a slowness that drove her wild. The room was warm, their skin even warmer. Malik's breath tickled her neck as he whispered things that made her toes curl. Tyrone moved with a rhythm that was patient, knowing, like he could read her every need before she spoke a word. She didn't want to speak anyway. Her body was doing all the talking. Malik kissed her lips deeply, then slid lower, his hands gripping her waist. Angelica arched into him, letting out a soft moan. It had been years since she felt this way. Cherished, devoured, wanted without question. The kind of desire that didn't come with polite reservations or slow build-up. These boys, these men, they weren't afraid of her. They worshipped her. Tyrone's mouth found her shoulder, then her collarbone, each kiss heavier than the last. His voice was low, rough, as he murmured her name, her hands tangled in his hair. Malik's hands explored her like he had all night to learn every curve, every sound that made her tremble. They took turns, sometimes together. Sometimes one would slow down while the other pressed in closer. Their touches never overlapped, but always connected. She was surrounded by them, held, lifted, kissed, praised. At one point, Malik pulled her onto his lap, her back against his chest, while Tyrone kissed her from the front, his hands resting on her hips. She laughed, breathless, dizzy, full of adrenaline and pleasure. Her body ached in the most delicious way. It wasn't just the physical. It was the way they looked at her. Like she was magic. Like she was fire. Like age didn't mean anything. She didn't feel 64. She didn't feel like someone's wife. She felt alive, lit from the inside. Later, she lay in the crook of Tyrone's arm, her leg tossed across Malik's thigh. The three of them silent, glowing from sweat and skin and laughter. The room smelled like cologne and wine and heat. No one reached for clothes. No one moved to leave. The night outside had gone quiet. The world could wait. She didn't even realize she had fallen asleep until she woke to the early gray of dawn, peeking through the curtains. Tyrone was still asleep, breathing soft and deep. Malik was in the kitchen, shirtless, drinking orange juice from the bottle. He looked up, smiled like they were old lovers, and walked back into the room without a word. She took a long shower, let the water wash over her like a secret. She touched her own lips in the mirror, remembering every second. The bruises on her thighs were like kisses, the ache in her lower back, a souvenir. She dressed slowly, not hiding her smile, not caring if it lingered. When she stepped out, both men were in the living room. Malik kissed her cheek. Tyrone offered to call a ride. She said she'd get one herself. "See you again?" Malik asked, half playful, half serious. Angelica smiled. "Maybe." And then she left, her heels clicking against the sidewalk, her coat swaying behind her like a cape. She didn't look back. Angelica walked into her apartment just before noon. The Sunday sun lit up the living room like a stage, but the house was quiet. She dropped her purse by the door, slipped off her heels and stretched like a cat. Her body was sore in the best way. Her skin still tingled in places. Her heart? Calm, steady, pleased. She smelled coffee and heard the low rumble of the TV in the den. Lawrence was home. She walked past the mirror in the hallway and paused, smoothed her hair, checked her lipstick. Not too smudged. She smiled at herself. Just a hint of mischief behind her eyes, and then walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Lawrence sat at the table, hunched over his coffee, wearing that same tired sweatshirt he always wore when they fought. He didn't look up. "Morning," she said brightly, pouring herself a cup. He glanced over. "You were out all night." Angelica sipped slowly. "Yes." He raised an eyebrow. "Where?" She didn't blink. "With Jasmine." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "You two went out drinking?" She let out a soft laugh. "Not quite. We stayed in, talked, listened to Sade, said all the things we don't usually say out loud. Lawrence stared at her. His jaw tightened. So what, you just sat around complaining about me? Angelica didn't hesitate. Pretty much. There was silence, the kind that presses on your chest like a weight. Then she tilted her head, watching him. You really hurt me last night, she said, and though her voice was calm, it carried heat. The things you said, the way you looked at me, like I was just old furniture you're tired of moving around. He opened his mouth to say something, then closed it again. She walked past him, trailing a hand along his shoulder with fake softness. But don't worry, Jasmine and I had a wonderful little therapy session. I got it all out. He nodded once, slowly. Glad you're feeling better. Angelica stopped at the doorway, turned back just enough for him to see the corner of her smile. I feel amazing. He didn't know that Jasmine's place was really a warm apartment across the river. He didn't know that she'd spent the night tangled between two young men who made her body sing and her soul burn. He didn't know that her makeup had been smudged not by tears, but by kisses. That her hair smelled like Tyrone's cologne, and her thighs still remembered Malik's hands. He didn't know that she had never lied so easily, so perfectly, and that she loved it. Angelica took a long bath that afternoon. She played soft music and lit her favorite candle. Her body ached deliciously. Her skin still flushed when she closed her eyes. But more than that, her heart was calm. Not because she had cheated. No, that word was too simple, too small. She had claimed something, reclaimed something. That evening they ate dinner like nothing had happened. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, salad with too much vinegar. Just like always. Lawrence made a joke. She laughed. She even poured them both a second glass of wine. But her eyes held a secret now. A deep one. A hot one. That night as they got into bed, he reached for her hand. She let him hold it. She looked at the ceiling and her lips curled into the softest smile. Not because she forgave him, not because anything had changed between them, but because she'd tasted something wild, something forbidden, and walked away glowing. She'd looked the man she married in the eyes and lied like it was nothing, and he believed every word.